we are already in the most perfect controller, at least we know of, which is the human body. The human being is the most perfect biological controller / experience machine, at least for this reality that we know, right? Back, bro.
Oh, what's good? Ivan.
Back.
Ivan Huang, the legend, the poet.
What's good? Armel Dussol, the young god, the wizard. What's good?
How was your event yesterday? I've heard you've been doing a nice little event in Taipei.
Man. Yeah, a little poetry special edition with Lucas Colivada's water paintings surrounding us. It was wonderful. It was very beautiful, very inspiring. A lot of first-time poets. Yeah, at the Core Cultural Art Studio and Gallery. A lot of first-time poets came up onto the stage for the first time, and we can talk a little bit more about that, about this concept of harnessing energy, focused attention, and how public speaking really is a very powerful tool that I think everybody should practice and give themselves a chance to, you know.
And I think you're giving me a chance to practice a lot. I think that's, for me, it's very new to be able to speak like this in front of public, but I think that's the best way to learn. Just getting outside, putting ourselves outside, that's the best way to learn.
Right. 100%.
It's very tough. It's very tough. I was talking about it yesterday with my aunt, and she was telling me how complicated it is to really believing in ourselves and really like putting ourselves outside, trusting that we are worth it to be outside and to speak out. You know what I mean?
Right. There's something about that. I mean, you know, I started off the night by saying in the beginning was the word. So I think as we explore more into the purple matter, we'll start to realize that sound is really the beginning of altering atomic quantum levels of thoughts, reality, vibration. That voice that we have is super essential to develop or to learn and to harness, especially now, I think, when everybody has an amplification device, whether it's in their hand, whether it's in the form of public speaking or performance. You know, the voice is so powerful right now.
And it's coming from a place where it was so rare to be able to create content and create, you know, like before it was only for writers, cinematographers who had like a huge influence and was able to like have a huge production team and create content. Now is everyone has the opportunity to create. So it's really what are we going to create?
It's amazing.
You know, what are you going to create?
More important is just, what are you compelled to create? Because it's not necessarily what are you going to create. It's what is that thing that's the feel the need or the urge. But yeah, back to you. For anyone joining us right now, welcome back to Purple Matter, episode 2. We live here with Armel Dussol, myself, Ivan Huang. Yep.
Live in Paris.
Live in Paris. I'm still here in Taipei, Taiwan. As you know, we are the co-founders, creators of Beyond the Hustle podcast, produced by Madam Vision and recorded live at Core Cultural Studios. We're doing this to kind of stay in touch with each other every week as Armel is traveling and I'm over here holding down the fort. But it gives you all a little BTS kind of more intimate access to how me and Armel dissect and discuss ideologies, concepts, and inspiring things that are happening in our life right now. So, Armel, please take it away. What do you got planned for us today? Live in Paris.
First of all, as you say, if you guys haven't checked out Beyond the Hustle through the same YouTube channel or through the podcast, I don't know if you're listening from Apple Podcasts or Spotify, just check out as well Beyond the Hustle, fire show. And starting up with Purple Matter in Paris. Ooh. The energy has been so different at Tokyo. It's a very different world. It's black and white, and I feel like in Paris, I'm very grateful to be here. So people are really nice. People are amazing, so friendly. You can talk with people. You can hear stories. I was listening to my uncle yesterday that was on TV, and he was explaining how being in a bar is like, you know, when you go in the bar downstairs, that's the only place when you can be close to people and be intimate with people without really having them to ask you to leave. It's like you go in the living room of someone and you just listen to what they say. So it was like saying, oh, I'm going in a bar, get a double whiskey, and then observe life. And that's where you get like the big spectrum of like every people. You get a lawyer, you get a policeman, you get someone who's just a random person, you know. So you can really observe the society into one place, and that's how powerful our bars. So it was really interesting.
Yeah.
And that's how Paris
cool
is about.
that. Yeah, it's so cool that you're saying that, because that's literally, there's a phrase, there's a saying, there's a philosophy, or maybe even a societal law. You know, I told you before, I was bartending in New York back in my time, hustling, 40, 50 hours a week, working as a photographer, freelance during the day, but a bartender in the night. And
Yes.
the bar/restaurant is the key leg in a three-leg societal system for human beings, psychologically, because you have your place of rest, your home, and then you have your place of work. And the bar/restaurant serves as this kind of middle ground microcosm, almost like a petri dish of life in itself when it comes to people. And it's essential for like a well-balanced person. They need the home rest, they need the place of work, but they also need that place of socializing. And as your uncle is doing, observation. So it is like a little, it's a microcosm
It's
of
very
the world.
interesting.
Yeah. And
Very
Paris, I
interesting.
can imagine, is so diverse, so
In Paris is very
so
different.
enigmatic,
Yesterday night I was having a drink in the bar downstairs with
Yeah.
my aunt, and
characters.
the guy from the bar just came and sit down with us and start
Right.
talking with us, and I'm not used to that. In Taipei or in Tokyo, people are
Right.
not as open to like get to know you, discuss
Good.
about some
Yeah.
random things in life,
Yeah.
and I was
Yeah.
really surprised and grateful for this because
Miss that, yeah.
it feels good. It feels
Yeah.
really good.
Those are the great liberal cities of the world, the great meccas. New York City, Paris, Milan, Tokyo. Well, of course, in Asia, it gets a little bit more different culturally, but as far as the West is concerned, whether it's New York or Paris, London, these are motherships. These are human being motherships. The city itself, I always felt, is like a coral reef. It's just every species of human thought form and shape is just flowing and flying around each other. So these little bars and restaurants, like if you ever been scuba diving or snorkeling and you're like exploring the coral reefs, there's always those little caverns or caves, and you'll see a bunch of species just dwelling. So this is kind of what you experienced in Paris. I can imagine. I love Paris. Great city.
Paris is a magical place, and
Oh yeah,
and
it's
there's one story I really love, and I heard about it recently. I don't know if you heard of the hashishan.
the hashisha.
Yeah,
What's
the
that?
hashishan guys. Yeah, those people, and I read it recently.
never
I don't
heard
know
of that.
where it was.
Hashishan.
I don't. Hashishan is actually a group of people. Let me get the exact dates. Hashish.
Eventually on this show, we're gonna set up a desktop system where we can kind of go into the side. I've been seeing some people do some cool stuff where we'll like go onto the side and then we can see your desktop live.
The Hashishins clubs. So the club of Hashishins,
Hashisha.
it was Hashishins. It was a Parisian group dedicated to the exploration of drug-induced experiences, notably with hashish.
Hashish.
So
Okay,
one
hashish. The hookah.
hashish. So basically, it was a group of
Hash.
people that was going into a room in the, which years was it? 1830s, 1830 to 1847.
Wow.
And they were going
1800s.
into this, 1800s. They were going into this room, and they were experimenting creation through the impact of drugs. And between those people, there was Victor Hugo, Alexander Dumas, Charles Baudelaire, like big names. And I just learned this recently, that actually those people were taking drugs
Right.
and smoking hashish or eating hashish, making it in form of tea, and they were experimenting creation under a different aspect of consciousness. And that's to me really, really interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure. Substance assisted, mental, psychological experiences. We always, as human beings, have been playing with these kind of, so to say, supplements or assistants, right? As you know, even now, last year I told you when I was in New York, there's a place called the Psychedelic Assembly that was established that is, supporting the community of people who are microdosing LSD or microdosing perhaps certain strands of mushrooms. So it's very interesting how there are these kind of like, I wouldn't say secret societies. Of course, there are real secret societies, but human beings will naturally come together to experiment and explore with like-minded individuals. And sometimes it's usually with the assistance of some kind of, interesting substances. Hashish. Have you ever smoked hashish before?
Yeah, I smoked a lot before. Now hashish. Not anymore, but it's a thing in France.
Wild. That's
a thing in France.
That's wild. Those secret hashish club for the artists.
Bro, can you imagine? And that's people that we study at school now, like Victor Hugo. I mean, that's like big names. It's not random people. That's like big names. And they were actually creating things under these kind of substances. And now it's illegal. Right. They don't want you to use it anymore.
Right.
So it's very interesting. I haven't really dived deep into it, but I think there's a lot of... I don't know where I heard that. I don't remember, but I was so surprised. I never heard that people were smoking hashish in the 18s.
I mean, I'm sure that the deeper you dive, you're gonna start to see a lot of, really interesting connections between.
The Armée d'Orient, along with a contingent of 151 scientists and anthropologists from the Commission des Sciences of Arts, brought quantities of hashish home with them from Napoleon's expedition to Egypt. So hashish were actually brought from Egypt to France, and they were smoking in France to create things. That's crazy.
What was the hashish doing though? Was it having a psychological effect? So it's kind of like
it's like you're smoking weed.
Similar to marijuana.
Yeah, but it's marijuana things, and I think they were mixing it in a tea and they were drinking it.
Oh man!
Or in a pipe and smoking the pipe.
I mean, the deeper you dive into these, I have a feeling you're gonna start seeing parallels and patterns that relate to certain enlightenment periods or certain big boosts of artistic, cultural, evolutionary time periods. And it's, this is why history is fascinating, and more so occult history gets really interesting, because there might be some correlations that mainstream media, mainstream education systems don't want the public to connect the dots on. But it'd be interesting to see some of these great, evolutions of thought and science and art and culture. And when you dig a little deeper, there's going to be some kind of ingredient on the side that was helping us, and that goes all the way back, right, to kind of what we mentioned in episode 1 of Purple Matter about some of these assistance that we are receiving from potential outer realms or frequencies or dimensions.
I wanted to read a little extract to you that I was reading this morning when I woke up. So I've started the Bhagavad Gita, the book that Abigail recommended you during the interview you had at the ABS this year. Was recommending us the Bhagavad Gita, and then someone else asked me to read it, so I've started reading it, and I wanted to read this little passage this morning that I read.
Share that. And I want to update you too after you share that about somebody who I met, came to the poetry night last night, and he came to our Future Forge event earlier this year. And he gave me a crazy lead, but I have a feeling what you're about to say is directly connected, so hit that. I'm all ears.
Okay. Real religion is the attainment of this transcendental, supreme, undying, undecaying tattva or principle through constant and profound meditation. Real life is life in the eternal atman or soul, True life is identification with this supreme soul which exists in the past, present, and future, which has neither beginning, middle, or end, which has neither parts nor limbs, which is neither subtle nor gross. The rishis of yore attain this mysterious and marvelous atman through the eye of intuition or the divine inner third eye, and then explain things of this world in the light of their knowledge of the self. This is the direct method of self-realization. That's crazy. The direct method of self-realization. And I wanted to share this with you because you always ask, you always talk about the pyramid of needs.
And the self-actualization versus realization/enlightenment. Are they two sides of the same coin?
And I think this book is just started right now, but I think it's all going to be about how to type into this infinite source that we're actually all are, atman, how they call it, and that's actually self-realization when you understand that you are infinite.
Right, and I feel like recently too, in gearing up to this poetic event too, because the theme was on water, it allowed me to do a little more research and have some realizations. And, occasionally I'll have certain epiphanies too, just some realizations that could be small, sometimes they could be profound. And it's ironic because whoever is listening might find what is profound to be insignificant, or they'll hear the insignificant thing and think that that's profound. But a realization that I realized as I was kind of doing some writing on the concept of the ocean and how it connects to all of us in a way that we are drops of water or part of this whole, metaphorically. And I realized that one of the symbols of success, or a symbol that we all use to identify ascension or evolution or adventure, and you just sent me a link the other day, which is very, very interesting, is the symbol of the mountain, right? And again, that triangle comes up, the mountain. So I started to analyze what a mountain actually is. What truly, physically, literally is a mountain? And this thought was also parallel to another thought that I was kind of developing, which was how divided we all are now. Everybody is so attached to their race, their culture, their location of birth, where they grew up. We're so attached to these identity markers, which are in a way those tentacles or those rivers of the ego or the whole, the one true ego, the one true ocean or whole. And they form, in a way, mountains. So metaphorically, we can almost say that human beings are individual mountains of sorts. Now, if you are a mountain, well, we strive to be mountains in a way, but if you are a mountain, you have to think to yourself, a mountain is made up of potentially every living creature that ever died, every sedimentary level, every fabric of physical existence that lived in the ocean and died onto the floor. Every species creates this land, and then the shifting, and then before you know it, over thousands of years, it rises, and then now you have this structure, and then we see it, and then a human being will say, oh, this is Zermatt in Switzerland. This is a Switzerland Zermatt mountain. But actually that mountain is fused with everything the earth has to offer. So it's interesting because then it brings me back to people. Again, we're so obsessed with identity, name brand, who you are, where you're from, what you are, where you come from. But we are mixed with everything. We are for sure a blend. There is no such thing, in my opinion, this is my epiphany, as pure blood. There's no such thing. Sure. There's no such thing as a pure race or a pure blood or a pure culture. Culture to me is just kind of like the trees on a mountain, the different species of trees on the mountain. But what is that mountain? I feel like people have forgotten recently, metaphorically at least. What, you know?
And I think that's very true. Like as soon as, and I mean, to me, it's gonna come soon that people are gonna realize that we're not actually individual entities and we are just all a part of one thing. That's when we're gonna experience less fear, right? Because we're gonna know everything is under control. First, no more fear of death, right? No more fear of judgment, no more fear of issues. And I think this would be a big step in our civilization, and switching from fear to love will really be a really big shift in our civilization. So I think it's key understanding that we are not separated individual. We are just one antenna that take informations from our experience that we are having in the third dimension, and then we transfer those information to the source just to help the whole grow. But the mountain I sent you, the documentary, have you watched it? I mean,
I watched about half of it, and then I kind of skipped through. But I have seen a lot of news about this phenomenon that's happening. If I'm correct, so this line down the block on that Mount Everest. Right?
So Kaizen, the documentary with I don't know his name. He's a French YouTuber. He go up the Mount Everest. He's actually like he's a normal YouTuber that was doing like Minecraft and things like that. So he was always inside his house, doing videos, doing content, and never really going out. And then once he was like, okay, I'm gonna actually climb the Mount Everest.
Crazy.
And
took him a year to get it done, right? Like the whole process, right?
Exactly. He trained for a year.
Wow.
And then he went up there, and all his experience that by training, by going into nature, by starting to like climb some mountains and everything, it taught him how important it was to be disconnected from the technological world. And then the thing that I'm really fascinated about what he did is that he used all his influence, all his millions of followers, to share a message that is actually go outside, go experience life, go do things. Don't stay inside. Don't keep scrolling on random things, because you're actually wasting your time to get experience from outside. And the more you go outside, the more you go outside, the more you will learn, the more you will get experiences, and experiences is the base of everything.
I mean, that's
really great documentary.
That's fire, because it's like the fragmentation of simulation, where we're in a simulation, hypothetically, and then within the simulation we like to create smaller simulations. But it's like we were born here to we are already in the most perfect controller, at least we know of, which is the human body. The human being is the most perfect biological controller / experience machine, at least for this reality that we know, right? Of course, I mean, even as I say that, there's a little ego in that, because I am human, right? There might be better versions of the humanoid entity, right? Of course, Theova, ninth dimensional beings, right? 9 feet, 10 feet tall avatars. But as far as we know, we were sent here to use this body, to use this controller. And the true game is there outside. Yet we made these little micro versions.
Exactly.
As I'm talking to you on a computer through through an iPhone. Again, it's always funny because, do we have the ability? Did we forget how to have these conversations, perhaps telepathically or meditatively? There are many accounts of people who can do this with their masters or with other beings, other entities, whatnot.
And that's what in the Bhagavad Gita they already say, like, I'm just in the intro. It's very complicated to read, but I'm only in the intro, and he's already saying that Krishna something. Yeah, Krishna. He's like talking. Yeah, he's
the blue being. He's like a blue being, right?
The blue being, exactly. He's talking to the person without talking, and he can read his mind. He can read like everything, He's already like straight mentioning about telepathy in the introduction of the book.
Krishna. No, he's a very. Again, I'm not well versed, but I have read a few things about Krishna, some of his legends. You know,
Krishna.
he's also a master musician. One of my favorite stories is his ability to dance, almost like his dancing ability and his music ability is like so allegedly so godly. Yeah, it's so godly that like I forgot the exact story. Again, I read this a long time ago, but I think he was in a situation, Krishna, where he was battling a foe or an adversary. But Krishna was in such an enlightened state that he was smiling and happy and dancing in the battle.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
and it was like that reminds me of sometimes you see some of these UFC fighters and
Yeah.
they happen to go into a zone and we're witnessing an enlightened warrior having fun, but at the same time inducing mass destruction on their opponent. This is a very fascinating concept. And you know, the Bhagavad Gita, I think, might even be connected. I could be wrong.
Yoga.
Not even Theova. I was gonna say to like Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer, who created the atomic. I think he quoted something from these. Again, those of you who are watching, please hit me with the proper source. But I remember Oppenheimer used a word from some ancient Indian text to describe what he feels like he just created, this energy, this destroyer of worlds, when he unlocked that atomic energy for the first time that man has witnessed on a scale like that. So this is the classic archetype of with great power comes great responsibility. And Armel, you gotta watch the movie Akira if you haven't. I think I told you about this too.
Yeah.
Katsuhiro Otomo, Akira, and it's all about these philosophies. And remember, Japanese,
Japanese are really.
They are the only people in our potential history that we know of, recorded history, agreed upon recorded history, that have had 2 nuclear
That's crazy.
bombs
That's something I'm
dropped
really.
onto them. Like, imagine the psychological energy trauma that has been inflicted on the people to this day. They might be nice, but deep down there is a search for understanding. Why? How? That's an apocalyptic event. Do you know what I mean? And
This is crazy.
to think that there are men right now, human being and woman, wielding a kind of power akin to what you're reading in the Bhagavad Gita, the power of Krishna, the power to destroy worlds. It's like Star Wars. It's like a Death Star. It's like, boop. If we get all these in agreement, if this guy agrees, all right, cool. Signed it up. All right, what are we gonna do after? Let's sign the contracts. Let's do it. Because people forget that war is a party. War is a party, and just like a party, I'm in events. You're in events. People in the restaurant business. War is a party, and you gotta order your supplies ahead of time, and you gotta have your deals in place with the people, with your promoters, with your chefs, with your guest list. You gotta order your it's crazy. You gotta order your devices. You feel me, man? That's why you'll see it. That's why you'll see a headline like, "Oh, Germany," or I forgot what was the big news. Orders a submarine. They ordered that like 3 years ago because you gotta build a submarine. People gotta get ready to play, to party. You gotta order your
Why is it a party? Why war is a party?
I'm saying the metaphor is that it's a party. It's like for us when we throw a party as humans, as regular people. What do we do? We gotta order our balloons.
Yeah.
We gotta order the
I know
food.
what you mean.
We gotta send out the guest. We gotta send out the guest list. We gotta create the poster. Right? We gotta gather. It's an event. We gotta have agreements with people. Are you gonna come? Are you gonna be there? Let us know if you're gonna be there. But then macro level is like the UN. It's like, yo, are we all agree? Are we gonna do this together? But what's at risk is like human beings' lives are at risk, right? Because you remember before they dropped that bomb in Japan, you got to have agreements in place. There's contracts in place. There's people who agreed to do it. You feel me? Like they agreed to do it. Like, yeah, we're gonna do this. I bet, make the call.
Crazy.
Yeah, we got to do this. What's the moral justification? Because if we don't do it, if we don't do this, then Nazi Germany is gonna blah 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 blah. But what if the people don't buy that? What if they don't, what if they don't buy that
That's
story?
crazy. But
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
something
that's-
I'm really that's
yeah, that's
something
its
I'm
own
really
rabbit hole.
curious. I'm really curious about with Japan, like how and why this country has been so much targeted. I mean, not only talking about the nuclear bomb or things like that, but as well as natural disasters. Like it's been really really intense there. So that's something
They'll never
on
be
a
fine.
deeper side, without like considering all this dimension of things and whatever. Like why there?
They're on the
Why
edge. They're
why
on the
on
edge
this
of move.
specific why on this specific place in the world is like that much intensity and that much impact on people's lives.
Yeah, that's a
With
wild
disasters.
question. That's a great question. I was saying there, I was joking there because it's like they're on the edge of the continent of Mu. It's like they're the remaining stuff above the surface.
Or they are also. I mean, I've asked myself this question so many times, so I get a lot of different answers, and sometimes I think like, oh, maybe Japanese people, they are like the closest human being to aliens, and so
Right, I've heard that
the
before,
nature the nature is giving them the opportunity to. I mean,
Right.
is not. I don't think it's the truth, but
Right. It's
nature get them the opportunity to get destroyed, to be able to rebirth in a new dimension where they will be able to have better impacts on what they do. So it's like a faster liberation,
that's
if
a
you
wild,
consider death as a liberation.
that's a wild way to look at it, and it gets complex too. Because I'm sure some people hearing this will take the other stance, which will be like to point out that even the Japanese culture is responsible for so much oppression, dictatorship, emperor. Like that's the point that I kind of said about the mountain. Like we can analyze the trees, but at the heart of the mountain, we're all the same. And there is no one culture or one people that I think is special, more special than the next. And this is a key point that I wanted to address or share today too, because for some of you who don't know, I'm Taiwanese, Jewish, American, with Hungarian, Czech origins, born in Hawaii. So I'm already a hybrid of myself, just as a person that you might encounter one day. I mean, all my life it's been I've never met someone with as many hybrid mixes as myself. We are out there. But I'll hear things from the different sides, on my family, Jewish side, Taiwanese side. Of course, Taiwanese is related to Chinese. So these are all ideologies. But one thing that I think unites all people is that we all think we're special. And I feel like the first step towards, and it's hard, but the first step towards returning to source is for that to go away. That concept of this is special. There's something special about me, my people, about
Exactly.
my pain.
When we think about it, we are all the main character of the movie, right? You are the main character of your movie. I'm the main character of my movie. I feel like everything is orchestrated depending on me, but that's just an illusion.
It's a healthy ego, and you do need a healthy ego, right? It's there for a reason too, but that could be its own test for our lifetime.
I believe this healthy ego is like here to help us grow, basically. If we
Right.
didn't have that, we'll just like be already perfect.
Exactly. Maybe that is source, right? Maybe pure non-ego is
Exactly.
source.
That's how it is.
Right. It is
Yeah.
ocean. Something was really cool. So I want to get back to it's cool that you're reading the Bhagavad Gita. I want to connect the Bhagavad Gita also to this concept of that I love about science fiction being prophetic. Science fiction predicting the future, essentially. And to think that some of these texts, like the Bhagavad Gita and we'll bring in elements like the Bible, of course the Tao Te Ching, talking about the way, how everything's connected. One can perhaps interpret those as science fiction literature, if you really get super technical. But science fiction, I feel, is prophetic. And last night, there's a guy I met who attended our event. I'll tell you off camera who he is. I mean, his name is Brandon, but he's a playwright. He runs a theater company here in Taipei. He came to our event, and we were kind of talking, but somehow we started talking and connecting about the X spaces that I told you about with Chris Bledsoe and orbs and UFO, and apparently he's very dived deep into this world and this information. So we had a great conversation. He wants to organize a trip. There is some bodies of people who believe that Taiwan is a very unique interdimensional portal on Earth. And actually in Yamingsan, there's an area. I'll tell you more about this later. This might be episode 3. Ladies and gentlemen, comment if you guys want to hear more. But we were talking about how science fiction is super prophetic. And he just happened to just give me this book right here. I don't know if you know who Arthur C. Clarke is.
Show me below. Wow.
Arthur C. Clarke, because we were talking about you and you telling me about Teova, and a lot of connections. There's so many connections in terms of the information he was expressing as far as ours, like a lot of synchronistic stuff happening. But what's crazy?
Honestly, all those things must be. It's like they're all talking about the same thing in different ways. If you check Krishna on the cover of the book, and you compare it with how Michelle is describing aliens.
Right. That's what I mean. So this is where we're getting to, like, these next layers. These layers are peeling back. And if you're familiar with Arthur C. Clarke, some people who are listening to this are 2001: A Space Odyssey, written by Arthur C. Clarke. Clockwork Orange. Two of one of my favorite, most pivotal movies that have changed my perspective of the world. Both were directed by Stanley Kubrick. So these are all films you gotta watch too eventually if you have time, because they're just kind of like compass guideposts. But the famous scene in 2001 was that monolith was present while the monkeys are arguing over food. And the monolith was there, like this alien black monolith thing. Kind of looks like an iPhone, funny enough. And it's just there. And the monkeys are like kind of getting influenced by it. But then one ape, picks up a bone and he uses it as a club and he beats the other monkey to death. Just beats him to death.
Oh, I saw that.
And then all the monkey, and then the music, dun, 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 it's crazy. But that scene is like all the monkeys are scared of this one monkey with the club. And then the monkey, this is the genius of Stanley Kubrick, the monkey throws the bone into the air and the bone starts floating, and then the next cutscene, spaceship.
Wow.
Technology was the first bone, the thought to use that bone as a weapon. So this is Arthur C. Clarke, this is Stanley Kubrick. These are people like analyzing this relationship between knowledge of science, technology, reality, physics, and how humans are here to manipulate it. But to what way, to what means, I think a lot of what we've been receiving information-wise goes back to our free will. It's like we always have the free will to use power for good or for bad. But then that's also just red and blue, right? Deep down, we're all purple. So
exactly. And on those words, I think we can keep the rest of the things for episode 3, my boy.
True. I know these.
We said enough, but it's very dense. A lot of information. So
short and sweet.
If you guys, you guys can just check the timestamps if you want to like drive forward this conversation. It's a lot of information. It's only one video, and hopefully we'll develop more in the coming up episodes. But
100%. And
of
feel free to
course,
comment,
if
throw in your topics that you want us to discuss. You know, again, we're living this with y'all. This is we're building in public with y'all.
exactly, we're building in public. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, check out Beyond the Hustle if you're interested into entrepreneurship as well.
Yes, sir.
And we'll see you in the next one. Thank you,
All right,
Ivan.
yo. Peace, man. Signing out. See you in Egypt,
Cheers.
bro. See you in Egypt.
Woo!
Hey.